And away we go. It is another nightcap brought to you by our good friends at Galactic Fried Chicken right here on BearcatJournal.com. I am Chad Brendel. He is Aaron Smith. You need to go to www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. Stop by Dayton, Kentucky, and tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15%. And if you're looking for a job, contact Shane at galacticfriedchicken.com via email and join the team. You get to see me regularly every day.
Every day.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
So you said a storm's rolling in.
Yeah, I just saw lightning flash in the kitchen window.
Half a tree came down yesterday.
Only half. Good for you.
Only half. But it did take. It's apparently laying on some communication wires. I firmly believe they are Spectrum wires.
Oh,
and somehow we still have internet. I don't know how. The tree is still laying in the yard. They are supposed to be here between 12 and 1 tomorrow, but 70-mile-an-hour gusts of wind yesterday.
We had a little bit of a windy period yesterday, but it passed, and we actually had pretty good weather. We knew it was hot, but we had pretty good weather for the Kelsey birthday celebration yesterday. It went very well.
Must have picked up by the time it got here then.
No, I think it was like the little bit farther north you went. I heard it was bad coming through around here up Hamilton.
Yeah, I think Columbus got hit hard.
Yeah. So that it stayed a little bit north of. Sometimes northern Kentucky just kind of misses out.
I swear, I can't get 3 days of just sun to just to let the grass just to not have to mow twice
Dry
a week.
Out, right?
Twice a week is getting a little ridiculous.
It's weird because mine's like turning brown almost because we just haven't gotten enough rain.
It rains. It feels like every day.
You're out towards Pittsburgh and it rains in Pittsburgh every day. Like you're not towards Pittsburgh, but you're in that same kind of line.
It's the Ohio River Valley is a weird thing.
Yes. So we got a couple things they're related that we're going to get to tonight. The first one, Josh Wiley and Lenny Taylor being on the tight end watch list, Nick Mardner being on the wide receiver watch list. Mm-hmm. This has been a defensive first program since Luke Fickell got here.
Yeah.
Run the ball, play defense, win games. That's kind of been the formula. You have two tight ends and a wide receiver on watch lists. I don't think anyone. I mean, maybe Nick Mardner blows up. I certainly can see a situation in camp where all of a sudden we're coming out of camp going, Nick Mardner with 35 pounds on him and or 25 pounds on him and the ability to go high point the ball is the next star boundary wide receiver. But the reality is we're all very high on Trey Tucker. We're all very high on Tyler Scott. You have guys like Jaden Thompson and Chris Scott waiting in the wings, Drew Donnelly waiting in the wings. You have Lenny, you have Josh, you have Shamama Taylor. Like the weapons on offense are plentiful, and it's interesting to see Wiley and Taylor and Mardner be the ones that are getting the preseason accolades.
It's a wealth of riches that this fan base isn't really accustomed to on offense. I mean,
we've had some times, some.
Last year was good. Let's
Yeah.
not get it twisted. Last year was good, but this year, now that you have Josh and Lenny in what should be both of their last seasons, but I don't know. I mean, you also don't know who's going to be throwing them the ball. We've not seen a ton of two tight end sets here in the last several years, and I think if you're going to do it, this has got to be the year, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen enough two tight end sets. I don't think they have thrown a ton out of two tight end sets, which makes people think less of how much 12 personnel has been used. I agree that I think it's going to be hard. If you're putting your best 11 on offense on the field, how does that not include both Josh Wiley and Leonard Taylor, right?
Yeah. What's interesting is you might actually see 3 tight end sets from time to time this season.
I keep we've gotten worked up over that in the past, and it just hasn't happened. So I'm not going to
not going to get too excited.
I'm not putting my peaches in that basket.
Okay.
Given where I've been traveling, and tomorrow is the day I make my peach and blueberry cobbler.
I followed where you were going with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think with the fact that you have a weapon like Shimon Mateer, what better way to get him on the field than?
I think it would more likely, though, be in 12 personnel where just one of Josh or Lenny is off the field.
Taking a beat. Okay.
That's where I think it's more likely we see Shimon as opposed to getting them all 3 on the – now, if Cummings and Geno elect to go a lot more power, run heavy, maybe you do see some 13.
RPO,
I'm just not expecting
out of that.
Yeah, I'm just not expecting to see a ton of 13. Maybe in the red zone,
Sure.
it could be dangerous.
I just think it would throw a wrinkle that defenses may not be ready for, because who's going to be assigned to cover Josh Wiley, Leonard Taylor, and Shimon Mateer,
and Nick Mardner, and potentially Tyler Scott. That's your 5 weapons out there, maybe.
Tough.
Yeah. Are you surprised Mardner got the nod in terms of who at Cincinnati is, who the national landscape expects to be the top dog at receiver?
I feel like people have been kind of throwing his name around since he arrived in Cincinnati as a potential guy on the watch list. So I guess I'm not surprised. I'll be surprised if he is a finalist. I think that's safe to say, because I don't know that. Again, we've talked about, you literally just listed all the weapons that we have potentially to go to on this team. And I don't know that Nick Mardner is going to be the dog that's eating the most.
So here's what's interesting to me. I think one of the main reasons, and you saw this through the draft process, I think one of the main reasons that the offense was so balanced last year was that Dez had developed to a point where he was so good at the line of scrimmage, understanding matchups, understanding what I've got on this side, what I've got on this side, what kind of coverage is out there. And when you do that, you don't have to force the ball anywhere, right? You don't develop favorites.
He also wasn't running a ton, especially early on in the season.
Yeah, but I don't know what that has to do with him being able to pick out, we're in a pass play, here's my read on the pass play, and who the ball is going to be spread around to is kind of what I'm getting at. You know what I'm saying? He was just so advanced as kind of an offensive coordinator on the field that he was able to say, okay, we're running this route concept. I see the mismatch here. This is where I'm going to go. It was never okay, it's 2nd and 8, and I've got to force the ball somewhere to make something happen.
He checked down very well last season.
Yeah, and that's when you have a quarterback that is advanced to that level, that's one of the advantages you have, is your quarterback doesn't get you in situations where he's really forcing anything because he understands what's happening. We don't know that with Ben Bryant and Evan Prater. So we don't know, I guess here's where I'm getting to. Remember how much of a connection Dez had with Josiah?
Yes.
And when he knew I have to get something done, I'm getting the ball to Josiah. I don't even want to consider it a safety valve, because there was a lot of big plays that they hit together. So it was just that comfort level of okay, something needs to get done. Does one of these, either be it Ben or be it Evan, do one of them develop into that, okay, I'm going to Josh on 3rd and 6, or I know Lenny can get open on this concept all the time, so I'm going to him. I think we're more prone to see more of that this year than we saw the last 2 years, as Dez kind of skyrocketed up.
Right.
And I think that can impact like what your wide receiver, tight end catches, yards, touchdown, what that looks like if we get to camp and there's Ben and Lenny kind of came in together and worked together a lot. Like, is there a connection there? Like, you get what I'm saying? I've used way too many words to talk about this.
Well, reel this back in, though, to Nick Martiner and why you personally feel that he's not going to be the one, or maybe you do, feel like he's going to be the one that emerges or doesn't emerge.
I think he's interesting because he's going to be the splash guy. Like, he's going to be the guy that you hit, 40 yards over the top. And because of his size and his speed, he's running past the defense or he's going up like Alec Pierce used to and high pointing, jump balls.
So I want to try and bring an analogy in from, I guess it was the 97 Bengals when it was Chad and TJ. No, 05, I guess. 05 Bengals. Chad, TJ, and
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, sorry, I was dating myself. 05 when it was Chad, TJ, and Chris Henry. And so maybe Nick Martiner's your Chris Henry type who's able to stretch the field a little bit differently than anyone else on that team can do. And that's not a takeaway on your Chad Johnson or your TJ, which would be Tyler Scott, Trey Tucker, but it just adds a whole different element that I guess kind of like what Alec Pierce did, but maybe not the same as what Alec Pierce did.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, like, is Martiner going to be the guy like Pierce became where you are able, 18 yards down the field coming across the middle and catching a ball? Mm-hmm. Like, Alec ran better routes than people really think about because they just think about those over-the-top splash plays.
The high points, yeah.
Yeah, but if you go back through his catalog, there was a lot of really good route running. Maybe Jaden Thompson is that guy that's doing, like, the detailed route running on 2nd and 7. And Martiner is your over-the-top guy, when you want to take a shot on 1st and 10 at your opponent's 45-yard line. And we're like, we're going to get a touchdown right here.
Because what cornerback, especially in the American Conference, is really going to be able to defend that?
Right.
But it depends on where the quarterback can place the ball. Can you place it where he's the only guy that can go up and get it?
Well, I mean, if he's got a 5'10" cornerback, there's going to be a section, a section where he can get the ball, like putting your hand on your little brother's head and like holding him at bay when you were kids.
No.
Right? Right.
Out of all the receivers, though, if you were to be voting
This can be a tough question.
A preseason favorite for a receiver of the year, is Nick Martiner the guy that you would go with?
I don't think so.
For me, it'd be Trey because I was high on Trey last year.
I think I'm a Tyler Scott guy. I'm a Tyler Scott guy.
I know you're a Tyler Scott guy. I'm a Trey Tucker guy, and I think that makes Nick Martiner being the favorite nationally all the more interesting that you're a Tyler Scott guy, I'm a Trey Tucker guy, and Nick Martiner's the guy that everybody else loves.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, he was a huge play guy at Hawaii. Like, he splashed last year. Like, 19.6 yards a catch or whatever it was. Like,
which is obscene.
Yeah. Like, if you're looking to move the ball down the field in 20 to 30-yard chunks at a time, that's your guy. But guess what? We've seen Tyler Scott do that too. How many times do we see Tyler Scott just run past somebody? 4.29 speed with him and Trey Tucker.
I've begged for Trey Tucker to get the ball more because at any point he can put his foot in the ground and see ya.
And Tyler Scott can at any point just run right fucking past you.
Yes.
What, 3 or 4 times last year? It was just Tyler Scott running in the open field and the camera's on the quarterback, the ball's in the air, the camera goes to Tyler Scott, and like
first play of the season.
Yeah. First offensive play of the season. He did it a couple more times where he's just running free. It's fascinating because I don't want to. I guess here's the question.
None of this is a knock on Nick Martiner.
No,
I do want to just make sure that that's very clear. None of us, of course, we'd all be excited to see him win the award. Absolutely, because that means that they outkicked the coverage in bringing him in, right?
Yeah, this is not a knock on I don't think Nick Martiner is going to be good. I just think there's a lot of guys that do a lot of different things.
Yes,
I think we are once again, like we saw last year, a lot of balance and a lot of guys with similar number of catches, similar number of yards. I guess here's what would put Martiner over the top. If there are a group of 4 or 5 guys, similar number catches, his average is probably going to be a little bit higher. So maybe he's the one in yardage and whatever that kind of sticks out a little bit. If I got to go touchdowns, I'm going with one of the tight ends. Who scores the most touchdowns? One of the tight ends, because in the red zone, the tight end is the mismatch.
You mean receiving touchdowns?
Yeah. Receiving touchdowns. Okay. We're talking about pass catchers.
Okay, just making sure.
So if we're talking about who's the best pass catcher, receiving touchdowns is one of those major factors.
I think it would probably be Wiley or Lenny.
But Martiner is also, we have seen the fade has been a prominent part of Cincinnati's offense. And having a 6'6", 220-pound outside boundary wide receiver that you can throw a fade to.
It's different.
It looks a little different. So it's what we're going to do over the next, scattered in on these shows through over the next couple weeks, or next 10 days almost as it stands. We know the major quarterback, secondary, there's some major storylines going into this camp that starts in 10 days. I don't know the exact start date yet, but sometime in a week and a half, we're going to have the start of camp. And we know the major storylines. And Brent is doing a great job cycling through the major storylines via the written word. We still do that here at Bearcat Journal. I know a lot of people get upset about it, but the stories are on the front page. Aaron and I are just going to try to take a look at some of the stuff that's bubbling right underneath the surface that we'll also be talking about as camp kicks in. We're not far. Aaron, football's on the horizon, right? The AAU season ended today. AAU basketball is done. And I can see it. Hey, football. How you doing, old friend? Which is going to be a lot of fun for this show. And the BBP. And the BCJ pod. And Pardon the Punctuation. And maybe Dave Simone's own show. I don't know. We got to come up with a co-host or somebody for Dave, a sidekick.
That's on him.
It might be partially also on me. There's just not a lot of great options. If you got any options for sidekick, hit me up on Twitter. Let me know who should be Dave's sidekick. Dave's like, I don't want it to be you guys. Well, it's just going to be you? He's like, maybe. We're working it all out. We're workshopping it. But that's going to wrap it up for tonight. He's Aaron Smith. I'm Chad Brendel. It's the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com.